Good afternoon and welcome to this week's Moar Guitars weekly workshop video diary. And this week is the fourth in a row. And I promised myself that if I did four in a row, well, first of all, two in a row, I'd get better lighting, which we now have. I actually already had it, I just set them up. Four in a row, I said I'd try to use microphones. So I have a not particularly good microphone here, and I have a slightly better microphone on my guitar cab for when I do some guitar playing later. Hopefully it translates to a more comfortable viewing and listening experience for you, the people that are taking the time out of your days to watch these things. But yeah, we see. And if I do 8 in a row, then there'll be dancing girls. Or actually, I said 8 in a row, there'll be a multi-camera setup, but we see if it comes to that. So this week's been, it's been great. I had a visitor here yesterday to talk about guitar building and education. That was very interesting. And some things he wanted to ask me about. And I have a customer coming tomorrow. He's flying from London to collect this guitar. This Will's flying. Yeah, tomorrow he arrives and we'll have a lovely handover. That'd be great. And actually, funnily enough, this Wayfair has also been collected in person. And John's coming from Seattle, I believe. I think it's Seattle. If it's not Seattle, then he hopefully won't be sleepless about me making that mistake. But it's anyway. So two guitars being collected in person, which is kind of my favorite thing to do, because also this week I've dealt with a really frustrating issue with a guitar being kind of stuck in transit, and it is. I was on hold and bouncing around a call center for UPS. UPS are normally fantastic, and I trust them with my guitars. But they wanted to know where the is a Wenge Wayfair, where the wood was harvested, and who cut it down, the name of the company, all the middlemen between that company and where I bought the wood from, and so that was annoying. But it's dealt with. The customer, the guitar arrived yesterday, and everything's. 2 days ago, and everything's perfect. But annoying that it took an hour of my life to do that. Yeah, shipping is kind of a funny thing. Also, like the finish on my guitars are finished in a way that makes for as responsive an instrument as possible. The wood is really a part of the sound, and they're very alive. And I want the guitars to age, naturally and to kind of resonate. And to get wood that can do that, one of the many choices that I make to do that, one of them is how I finish my guitars. So it's a very breathable finish. But the hold of an aeroplane often gets down to like -50. And also it's often a vacuum. So the guitar is my workshop, and it's a relatively comfortable, still Danish winter, but relatively comfortable temperature into the hold of a plane. And then arriving in, Costa Rica or something. And the guitar, because of the breathable finish, sometimes you have to issue with wood taking a little while to settle down. Whereas if I mummified the guitars in plastic, that would be a bit less of an issue, but the guitars would sound worse. But ho-hum, yeah, shipping. Collecting in person is always quite nice, because I know exactly how the guitar is, played the first time. I know the first sounds that the client will have from it. But I have no idea, of course. I ship a guitar, and I might not know what the amp the client's playing into, and how the guitar is when it comes out of the box. The first few days, often things are buzzing a little bit more, and it takes some time for the woods to move around and get acclimatized to the climate that the guitar lives in. But when I hand deliver, I can be totally positive of the best possible first few minutes with the instrument. Which these will both get. But this I posted, or I think I've not posted on Instagram about this guitar. I've been a bit rubbish at Instagram lately because I've been busy with actual work rather than social media work. But this is, as I said, being collected tomorrow, and it's done. I did do a quick talk about it in an episode from a few weeks ago of this weekly diary. But it is now much better. Of course, it takes a long time. Getting the setup perfect can take a little while, and gradually bringing the nut slots down to the optimal height, and balancing the tension in the truss rod, especially with 8 strings, and this is a baritone as well. It takes a little while to get things kind of playing right, and it's funny, I've learned the past 6 months that the setup of a guitar, of course if a guitar is set up badly and it buzzes or it's out of tune or high action, it's uncomfortable to play. But there is like a range of correct with a guitar setup of like where it won't buzz and it'll be intonated correctly, and the action is acceptable. But there is an effect on the sound and how kind of open or kind of choked a guitar feels based on the setup. It's really interesting, actually. I can't quite put my finger on what exactly it is, but it's something that I've discovered kind of relatively recently. That, of course, there is correct, and we always aim for that. But if correct is this wider space, where you are in this space is kind of interesting, and guitars can really come to life at one spot in that range, and yeah, this is that they all hopefully get there. But it's interesting. So this is one. But yeah, people have asked some questions, and I kind of wanted to address them. I'm happy to answer questions. If you have any questions, then put them in the comments or write me on Instagram or just shout it really loudly near my workshop, and hopefully I'll hear it. But people, there's a few kind of common questions, and I thought it'd be nice to address one of them and also two kind of direct questions. My piezo circuit. So first of all, loads of my guitars at the moment, as a coincidence, are getting I have this piezo pickup system that I kind of developed for my guitars, and I don't really want to go into how they work exactly because I developed it, and a lot of R&D time went into it, and also it's developing. Like I the design changes with time. But basically, what I wanted to design, and what I think I have designed, is a totally passive piezo system. There's no batteries or anything, that picks up a lot of the articulation of that kind of sound, and especially on a hollow guitar, as these are both totally hollow. They can pick up an awful lot of kind of really good sound, and a lot of kind of I don't know the specific frequency range, but kind of sound somewhere around here. If this is the guitar sound that the piezo picks up, and it's essentially it's a few several piezo pickups placed inside the guitar body at kind of key locations of vibration, and going to its own kind of volume knob, and it works a bit like a blend, and it's great. But it's essentially pickups placed internally inside the body at various places of kind of key vibration, because that's what piezo pickups pick up. They pick up vibration. And yeah, it's simple. It's passive. There's no batteries. There are some nuances with it. It's because it's passive, it's much more sensitive to ground hum. So if you have a dodgy, kind of an iffy power supply in your house, if your fridge is very, very old and it's on the same mains power, that can sometimes affect a slightly higher kind of level of ground hum. If you're moving around, you get some feedback sometimes. So it's not perfect. I don't advertise it as being perfect. But there's no battery changes. You won't ever be at a gig playing and your battery dies. So that's a big win for me. I'm really there are some amazing active pickups, like you had some Fishman Fluences in here recently, and they are incredible, amazing sounding pickups. But the second it's active, I just kind of like a little bit switch off, because I don't want to put a battery compartment into a guitar particularly. Apart from, unless there's like a boost or something built in, but that's kind of more like a bit like a toy or something. But a part of the guitar that you really rely on, like the pickups, if they're active, I kind of shy away from it a little bit. So yeah, the piezo system, totally passive, picks up vibrations. And another question that I got actually in kind of directly last week was, this bridge setup essentially is it's a kind of a cut-off T-style bridge. This is I have my own in production now. This is actually one of the last that weren't kind of. It's modified by me, but I did not design this. Or I kind of did a little bit, but you know what I mean. This is not a totally more designed bridge. But you'll see that it's on a riser, and people have kind of been asking why do I have a trapeze and a cut-off T-style and a riser? Why not just have this, or just have this with a tunematic or something? And it's an interesting question, and because a tunematic actually would work, the traditional, like I have one over there. I'm not going to grab it, but a traditional like a floating jazz box bridge. So there's a couple of reasons. There's a lot of sound in there. When you're playing the guitar, you get a lot of artificial resonance from those strings. They vibrate with a cutoff T and no trapeze. You don't get that. The traditional jazz box bridge doesn't have any intonation adjustments, which I don't like that so much. Tunematic doesn't have that much range of adjustment, which is why I don't like it. And actually, one of the other big reasons is that these 3 brass saddles that I use on most of my bridges, there's a sound in them, and there's a really great guitar frequency, which is kind of upper mids. These really pick up well, and they add an awful lot to it, much more so than individual tunematic slots. I've done ABs where I've had a guitar actually very similar to this, where it could have either bridge, and acoustically, this setup just sounded more inspiring to me, to my ears. You can ignore it and say I'm a madman. But yeah, so the trapeze also, what it does is it puts a lot more, the strings coming kind of from a lower angle, puts more downward force also onto these big brass saddles, pushing a little bit more vibration into the guitar. So you do get this kind of awkward angle, but it's forcing downward pressure into the guitar's top. And it just sounds very big. I mean, acoustically. Yeah, I really it's quite a big surface area, therefore possibly leading to more vibration transfer. It's just, in my experience, it's been better actually. I use tunematic sometimes. There are some guitars where the design of the guitar it kind of needs it, but my kind of optimal is actually this. But yeah, I thought I would do a little bit of playing on this one because it's about to go. We're not going to play it again, and I have set up a nice. I have my I was going to say my nice amp from Mike, but I also said my Mike runs Uncle, and Uncle Amplifications. Mike made me this amp, and it's the best sounding amp ever, and I set it up today because it's a little bit louder than my normal. So yeah, this is an 8-string baritone, tuned in B standard, but the middle 2 strings, so the strings that would be a D and a G string on a normal guitar, have an octave up added to it. Of course, they're not D and G strings because it's a baritone, but I have not had enough coffee to do the maths of which tunings are. This is a really big sounding thing. There's a P90 here and a Firebird pickup here, and it's just the Firebird's super bright. Will's coming to take it to, well, they'll collect it tomorrow, and hopefully he's as happy with it as I am. But yeah, thank you very much for watching this week's More Guitars Weekly Video Workshop Diary Thingamajiggy. If you have any questions that you'd like me to talk about, any kind of nerdy luthier questions, like, you know, which wood is best, or, you know, not that question, but something like that, feel free to ask me out. I'm really happy to kind of go into nitty-gritty detail on nerdy things that maybe no one else wants to talk about. No one wants to talk to me about this stuff, so I can talk to you about it. But thank you for watching, and I will hopefully see you next week. Have a good one.